Thank you, and I guess I should congratulate my good friend from Montana, John Tester, on taking over on this committee. I think he is somebody who completely understands the challenges of many of the tribes that live in North Dakota, and certainly the large land tribes. And being an educator, I think he shares the concerns of so many of us regarding Indian education. Just tell a story. A tribal chairman in my state, Standing Rock, recently talked to me, and his whole focus was education. And he said, you know, you ever watch little kids run to the bus on the reservation? You know, they run and their spirit's high and it seems to soar. And he said, and then they get kind of in 6th grade and they walk to the bus. And then they get to high school and they walk away from the bus. Something happens there from that exuberant spirit of starting an education and an opportunity to walking away from education. And this is the hope that when we all work together and we begin to have hearings like this, begin to talk about how we can solve these problems, that we will see educational achievement at least equal to the other residents of my state within Indian country. And if I know we can accomplish that, because it's not about the limitations of the child, it's about the limitations of the system. And so thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. Ranking Member Barrasso, I share with you your concerns and hope that I can be part of any solution discussions that we have as a result of them. I have quite a few questions, a lot of which I'll submit for the record if that's possible. But I want to pick up on this theme of coordination. You know, for every one of those programs, there's probably a grant writer, and then there's probably an auditor, and there's probably about 20% administrative cost that doesn't go to kids. Mm-hmm. But yet, we all turf fight because we got our program and we like our program. So I understand, you know, trying to find it seamless, but people are going to find a way to say we can't coordinate unless somebody tells them that they have to coordinate, or they're not going to get any of the money. And a lot of this should be directive locally, not just, you know, we should hold people accountable for those dollars and those resources, but we have absolutely got to engage the entire community and in fact, the local government, which in this case is, in many cases, tribal government. But, and so I want you to do some serious thinking about how we can mandate, not just encourage, not just try and take down barriers, but require that there be a single focus with appropriate resources, and that focus should be the education of kids. But I want to tell you, I had a kind of a little wake-up call yesterday in my office. I was visiting with some grade school principals, one of which was in Mandan, my hometown, and the other one was in Bismarck. And I asked them what the big issue was for them, and I thought it was going to be early childhood education. You know, I thought it was going to be No Child Left Behind. And both of them said it's mental health. Is mental health problems within the community that they're serving. And they both serve populations, about a third of their kids are Native American kids, transitioning from spot to spot to spot. And that's another whole issue about the lack of consistency in education by moving around. But I want to know what you're seeing in the work that you do and your agency does in mental health, and what you think can be done to address some of those concerns. And I want you to focus in particular on what I think might be a problem, which is post-traumatic stress as a result of witnessing family violence. Mm-hmm.
And I totally understand that, and that would not surprise me as an answer to that question, because we hear that even in the earliest years of when you ask teachers in classrooms what's the most challenging thing they have to deal with, you can call it whatever you want to, behavior, social emotional development, mental health issues, but one way or another we have issues surrounding that whole area. So I like to call it social emotional development of our children. I tend to think that we are getting active in this at the Administration for Children and Families, that it gets back to parents and parenting, and we are going to have to pay more attention to how we help parents understand basic child development. And I think some of what goes wrong in communities or parents in some of the families is inappropriate expectations.
And I get that, but let me tell you the story. 2 little boys on the school bus beat up 2 little girls. on the school bus. And when they get to the principal's office, they ask them why. And they said because they want to see their dad because last night their dad beat up their mom and he's in jail. So you can talk about parenting, but we have an immediate crisis situation that we need to deal with. And I'm wondering, how I mean, that's a long-term solution, but how do we deal with the emergency of that issue?
Well, I think we need to get better resources to our schools and to our early childhood providers. We know that we have a lack of trained people in this area available to these programs, and there is no question about that. The whole area of mental health is, front and center in so many ways, but we just lack the resources and the trained people, the skilled people, for the ages of the children and the issues that we're dealing with.
And I agree. So what are you doing to kind of look long-term at fixing that skills gap and helping those schools?
Well, my role is not with the schools necessarily, it's with the preschool component, but we are looking at that, and we are working with other areas of the Department of Health and Human Services. SAMHSA, which does have the funding for social, emotional, mental health issues, we've been working with them and HRSA and other colleagues throughout the Department of Health and Human Service to take this issue on. I wouldn't sit here and say we have answers yet, because it's very complicated, but we started this work about 6 months ago, and we have a very solid interagency group of people taking a look at it. Centers for Disease Control are involved in it with us, the Office of Special Education over at the Department of Education.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask, as you work through that, if you can make those reports available to us and that progress in addressing that issue available. Just a couple questions, and one is the challenges of credentialing. I don't think there's any doubt about it, and I really applaud your programs that you've described as really requiring a high level. But what if we can't achieve that? Are we sacrificing quality? And I'll give you, for instance, right now, Mandan Hidatsa and Arikara Nation, in the bowl of the Bakken, even if you could recruit a teacher, there's absolutely no place for a 4-year degree teacher to live. And so with the standard of 50%, the federal standard of 50%, they are finding it extraordinarily difficult to meet the federal standard. So do you give up and send the kids home? That's the real challenge here. And have you looked at any strategies to do homegrown credentialing, or can we look at, some other kind of strategy to make sure they're quality programs without having this hard and fast rule of 50%? And I guess I would start with you, Mr. Wells.
That's basically what we're attempting to do is homegrown, because we're within our Division of Education, we have higher education. So what we know what we're turning out. We know what we're paying for, and so therefore we have a list. And so we're always looking for those students that we can encourage to come in and work for the tribe. So we are doing some of that. In Ada, Ardmore, it's probably not quite as difficult, but those little rural towns, it's really, really difficult because people don't want to move there, they don't want to live there, they want to be in a little larger area. From my perspective, being an old retired school teacher, I think education is important no matter what, and yes, we absolutely want the top. We want the best that we can provide, but some is better than none. And I don't want to give up on a program that I think is successful. Child Care and Head Start are both extremely successful programs. They make a difference. They've always made a difference, and they'll continue to make a difference. The ideal scenario is we have totally qualified, certified teachers. Right. But again, that's what we're trying to get to, and it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. It's been a challenge. And I don't have an answer about, except we try to homegrown, we try to get more people involved in it, we try to encourage our young people as they go through school to consider being a teacher.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wells, have you ever tried to stipend teachers? Kind of look at kids out of high school who may want to go to college, provide the resources for college with a commitment for...
We pay for our we pay a supplemental is what we pay for all of our students that go, Chickasaw students that go into college. We provide a supplemental funding. We pay books, we pay fees, we pay, not all of them, that's why it's a supplemental program. We'll pay up to 12 hours So we're, you know, we're doing what we try to, you know, we're attempting to do what we can. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but,
No, I'm trying to get a commitment from you that if we just help transition these folks, that maybe the 50% hard and fast rule is one that needs to have flexibility.
I think
so
it needs
that-
some flexibility,
Thank you.
absolutely. I think, you know, like, we've kind of backed ourselves in a corner. You know,
Yeah.
we're making a requirement that's difficult to meet. And if you talk to anyone in Indian country, I think you'll find, even though we're successful, we're not completely successful. Right now, we're short a teacher. And we've been trying to get a teacher identified for 3 months.
You know, it's so tough because we want absolutely the highest quality, but we also don't want to credential our way out of a program.
Absolutely.
And I think, Ms. Barb, you know, obviously you have the same kind of level of challenge. And can you repeat a statistic? Because I was looking for that in your written testimony and couldn't find it quickly, but it's the one on vocabulary.
Dr. Risley's work, and it's children from high poverty areas and children of color particularly are coming to school with 3,000 word vocabulary, and middle class children are coming to school with a 20,000 word vocabulary. It's huge.
And isn't it true among a lot of academicians will tell you they'll never catch up? You start out that far behind, it is so extraordinarily difficult to catch up.
I agree, but I have hope
Well,
because our early childhood is making a difference.
we can't have anything but that, but that's hope that you can, in fact, better prepare children into schools. But without that early childhood intervention, to try and say, okay, now you're going to go to first grade or kindergarten, and you're going to compete on this level for attention in the classroom when you are so far behind in terms of your understanding of the language even, that there you are. And it just, I think, reinforces the chairman's observation, and certainly the reason why I'm here. This absolutely is the beginning of a change. If we don't do it here, we'll continue to spin our wheels. We'll continue to spend money on Title I. We will continue to spend money on prisons. We will continue to spend money on juvenile detention, and we will continue to be frustrated. And so, you know, I want to thank all of you for the tremendous work that you've done, for keeping hope and faith that we can, in fact, change this, because it is, for so many children, the absolute hope of the future.